殿堂入りの発表から一夜明けましたが、イチロー選手の一票の未投票は公式番組で大きな話題となっています。本来であれば、殿堂入り確定だけで喜ばしい事実なんですが、投票数を公開しているだけにその影響は大きいようです。公式番組でもかなり強い口調で非難していましたので、今回はそちらの番組を翻訳してお届けいたします。
All right, welcome back. John Heyman sending this out yesterday after the Hall of Fame votes were revealed, and I love it. Ichiro missed unanimity by one vote. Easy for me to say. Please step forward, you numbskull. Well said, John. And we feel the same way, doggone it. John is in studio with us today. We're grateful for that. And as a guy that's voted for the Hall of Fame for a long time, BBWAA guy for years and years and years, I think a lot of people would like to know who that person is. Is there any chance down the road that we'll have to have that transparency?
First of all, it's great to be on the desk. I love it here. Appreciate the invite. You know what? We haven't done a good job reporting about ourselves, right? We never found out the 3 people who didn't vote for Griffey, the 1 person who didn't vote for Jeter, and it wasn't me on Ichiro. I can reveal that now. I just don't think, I think that they're probably embarrassed at this point. People don't like being called a numbskull. And I'm not the only one. I don't know whether other people were impersonating or whatever.
What could have been the reason, do you think, John? Like, Matty had a great observation early on about the Rivera thing. What do you think it was?
Mine would be oversight. They forgot to check the box. I was so nervous about it, I looked at it 10 times. I'm like, oh, yes, Ichiro. I vote. I'm not going to be the one, right? I'm not going to be the one. I think so. Or maybe what you said, you know, Babe Ruth wasn't, you know, Willie Mays not unanimous. Maybe, you know, they felt like, you know, nobody should be unanimous. I'd like the person to come forward. I really would.
Yeah. You know, is it true, John, and you could confirm or deny this as you take a look at the final balloting from last night's results, that the BBWAA has pushed for transparency and that the Hall is saying, no, we want to keep it closed? Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know about the Hall, but it does feel like the BBWA would like people to be transparent, because I forgot, that's one box I forgot to check, was to make my ballot public, and Jack O'Connell came back to the 15 of us who forgot to do that, and I immediately said, go ahead and make my ballot public.
Wow, I guess we'll never know. I want to remember that Derek actually found out who it was that didn't vote for him. Am I imagining that? Is that still a mystery?
I think it's a mystery. I don't think we're ever going to know.
So Jack O'Connell knows then, the way he came back and asked.
Somebody knows. Well, who's the accounting firm that does it? They know. Yeah. Somebody knows. Somebody tabulated the ballots. So somebody knows. And I just want to say, I think overall, I know that the emphasis on this, thanks to my tweet and everybody else's comments, I think we did a pretty good job. I would like to see Beltran and Andrew Jones make the Hall of Fame. I do believe they are Hall of Famers. And I like the fact, I love what you said, Dan, about the peak, the guys who are great at the peak. And that's why I always voted for Mattingly and guys like that. And I'm glad to see Felix Hernandez. And I voted for several guys I wasn't sure that I want to see on that ballot, because that's the one rule I don't like. I'm not a protest guy, but in this case, I felt like I don't want to see these guys fall off the ballot. So I voted for David Wright. I voted for Felix. I voted for a few guys I think are fairly borderline, not that that's an insult. And I want to see keep going. I mean, King Felix won his Cy Young. He was second twice in a 7-year period. He was top 3 in ERA, OPS against, ERA, and, you know, I think we might have to reevaluate Johan Santana, who we knocked off the ballot. I hate the fact that we knocked Keith Hernandez, Lou Whitaker, Kenny Lofton, even Dick Allen off the ballot. They didn't even get the 5%. I don't get it. Crazy. I do think we got a great class. Dick Allen always should have been in. His OPS plus is about the same as Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. He should be in. I always voted for Dave Parker, so I'm glad that he's in. I think we did well overall, and I know that the focus is on the one guy who crazily did not vote for Ichiro, right? I mean, 200 hits, 10 years in a row. He came in at age 27 and still managed to get 3,000 hits. He's clearly a Hall of Famer. Yeah. I think the word fame does count, too. He's, I mean, world famous.
Fame, that's right. And I'd make a case for Fernando Valenzuela, for Louis Tiant, and Vida Blue in that same context. Fame, the most famous athletes, let alone baseball players of their time.
Today, Ichiro Suzuki becomes a member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and he becomes the first ever Japanese player to be elected. Ichiro, welcome to Cooperstown.
Ichiro's vote total, do we know that?
We do.
Okay.
He finished with 99.7% of the vote. All but one vote.
All but one. Greg, 99.7%. Oh. An extraordinarily high percentage for Ichiro. One shy. Don't double over. One shy right there. That is our announcement, which was live right here in the Plaque Gallery last night. Josh Rawitz, president of the Hall of Fame, is back with us now. By the way, well done with your Japanese throughout the whole presentation, Josh. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
I know after I throw it to you for the official announcement, I kind of duck out of the way. I'm standing with Ted Williams and Babe Ruth, their statues. So I'm behind, and I noticed when you were doing your Ichiro introduction at the very start, you didn't say unanimous, right? So that would have been there had that happened, right?
That was our thinking, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So I did have to ask you. And again, we've talked about this, like, does it really matter? Is it a sign of respect for Ichiro? But at a certain point, it did become a thing where, hey, this would be, I don't know, a little even more resounding for the one vote. But that was just last night where I had to react Greg Amsinger. I saw him double over, trying
like
not
seeing him in pain.
Yeah, just to see him going, no, how's it one? That's what surprised me. That I'm saying there was one. If there was 5 or 10 that had to be strategic with their votes and had to throw a vote to Troy Tulowitzki or Hanley Ramirez, okay, fine. But one guy, do you know who that one person is?
Yeah, we do. But ultimately, what you have to remember is that when people are making their decisions, they don't know what everybody else is making. So it's not like they know they're going to be the only one.
Right.
And so ultimately, we just, from our standpoint, we really only think about the 75%. And if you think of every single other plaque around us, there's only one person in this whole room that got to that point. And the rest of these guys are pretty darn good Hall of Famers, guys and ladies. So ultimately, we get why it's a storyline, but from our standpoint, once you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer.
No, absolutely. Just following it along in real time, as we were living it in real time, I thought, oh, one guy, how about that? All right, the importance of Ichiro, first Japanese-born player in the Hall of Fame. What's the importance of that for the Hall?
Well, it's important for the whole game of baseball. You think about how global we've become with the World Baseball Classic and inductees from all these other countries over the last 30, 40 years. And so to finally see somebody who crossed that barrier from Japan, I think it was just a massive day in Japan. And what's cool is, as you were noting, it was the morning was starting, and the number of texts I got overnight from people who are so excited about this, and the media on site here. It's an incredibly huge day for the country, and obviously you just keep seeing more and more of an impact from Japan with players in the big leagues.
And you are going to have a Trans-Pacific exhibit, big exhibit, opening up right here upstairs, right? And is that for induction weekend? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's actually being built right now. We've been working on it for a couple of years. And so it's called Yakyu Baseball, the Trans-Pacific exchange of the game. Yakyu means baseball in Japanese. And it's really all about the exchange of the game going back 150 years, the earliest American players to go to Japan, the earliest Japanese teams to come to America. It's an incredibly interactive, very large. I think it's going to be one of the coolest things we've done here in a very long time. And it opens that weekend, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Tremendous. Now, the first trip for U.S. major leaguers to Japan was 1934. Is that?
No, there were actually other teams. I guess U.S. major leaguers was that time period, but there were colleges that have gone over, and there were certainly Japanese universities as early as 1904 or 1905 that came to the U.S. to learn the game as well. So it's been going on for 150
years. But 1934 was the Bambino, right? It was Babe Ruth going. Babe Ruth is going over there, and there's also spying going on in between the two countries, right? Pre-war, a lot of intrigue going on.
All of those stories are going to be told in this exhibit. Yeah.
Tremendous. I mean, yeah, on a day that Roki Sasaki is being introduced, by the Dodgers, that this is happening. It shows not that long ago. Again, there were questions. Can a Japanese position player thrive in the U.S.? And the answer was a resounding and immediate yes from Ichiro.
And same thing with position players. I was an intern when Nomo came to the Dodgers, and nobody knew how good he was going to be. And next thing you know, he's starting the All-Star game. And so Sasaki, following in those footsteps, going to the Dodgers. We actually have a baseball from his perfect game in NPB in the hall already and going in that exhibit. So it's you really understand just how global this game's become, not with Japan only, but all over the globe.
How good is your Japanese? Because you were pretty good last night. You congratulated Ichiro in Japanese. If you didn't see it, you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Is there more to it than that? Or is
the bigger, what we also wanted to do was extend a welcome to Japanese fans. So what we said is we wanted them to know that they're welcome to come here anytime, not just this summer, but for the years to come. And ultimately, I can't say I speak much else, but we thought it was an important message. And we have a number of staff members here who are learning Japanese, who are learning cultural norms to be able to make sure that we can be a welcoming environment for anybody that comes.
No, it was a sign of respect. Well done overall. I wanted to ask you a quick question. We talked about what used to be known as the Veterans Committee, ERA's committee now, and take a look at some of the names. I mean, I'm astounded. I think that, again, the real action is going to be the screening committee, because you have Bonds, Clemens, and Schilling, you know, in this era, but also Dale Murphy, Don Mattingly, Dwight Evans, Keith Hernandez, old favorites, Bernie Williams, Kenny Lofton, Jeff Kent will now arrive on that. This is a jam-packed. There are so many good candidates. Is there any thought? My question to you, as we go back again, the golden era, which used to be the strongest era, but now Dick Allen is in, Ron Santo has gone in years ago, and you can see where the vote was. Tommy John didn't quite get in, Ken Boyer, you know, Maury Wills, Louis Tiant, good candidates, but it seems there are so many great candidates from that other era. Is there any thought to having kind of an old school veterans committee? We've picked through the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Now the 80s and 90s must be addressed. Any thought to changing any of that or trying? I know you did try to, kind of double rotate the recent years in there. What are the thoughts on that?
Well, ultimately, we feel like the system we have now works really well. We just put it in place a couple years ago where we made the delineation point in 1980. So just by virtue of doing that, you're going to have a larger period of time from the beginning of baseball to 1980. It becomes harder and harder to get on the ballot because many of the 30s and 40s and 50s have been looked at. But when you think about Negro Leaguers, there's new statistics coming to light. There's new ways we look at statistics now from that era. So I think we really like the way it is now, but you are not wrong. There are a lot of incredible names, and that's because these are basically the top 2% of the people that ever played the game of baseball, and the hard part is figuring out who's the top 1%. I don't envy the Historical Overview Committee, but they do an amazing job of making sure that people get a review, and that's what it's all about.
Just going from this, I don't know, 13 to 15 to 8, which is what the screening committee is going to do, is going to be brutally tough. That's excellent work, Josh. Great work last night. And
Appreciate you guys
the Hall of Famers are coming in. We're going to have the news conference tomorrow here with Ichiro. It's going to be exciting.
I think they're in the air right now.
They're in there right now. Yeah. Josh, thank you so much. An emotional day, an emotional week. We are back in Cooperstown, New York at the Baseball Hall of Fame. The class of 2025, second straight year, 2 first ballot Hall of Famers will be inducted, 3 in all. Ichiro, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner, and all 3 will be here today. We will be speaking to them later in the day. Brian Kenny here at the Plaque Gallery at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. We're here with Jason Stark, JP Morosi, Joel Sherman. This was fantastic, but I want to start with one thing. I blame you. I blame you for my reaction at the top of the announcement yesterday, because I maintained I don't care if Ichiro is unanimous. It doesn't matter. Nobody gets in unanimously. I know one guy did finally. It doesn't matter. And then, John Morosi, during our show yesterday, you said it's seen in Japan as a sign of respect. It's a sign of how Japan and Japanese baseball has come about, especially if Ichiro goes in unanimously. And then when Josh Rowitz said 99.7, you could see I went up in the air. Is that one vote? It was one vote. So it bothered me a little bit. So what's the reaction from Japan? There's no disrespect seen at this point, right?
I think the important thing, BK, is more than half of all the media members here this week to cover the press conference and all the amazing events in Cooperstown, they're all coming from Japan, and they're representing the incredible enthusiasm. This is the imprimatur of the way in which Japanese baseball has advanced. So yes, there is that parenthetical of, oh, who was that one voter? But the main focus is that this really is a symbol of the influence globally of Japanese baseball, right, which we live every day at the network. All the amazing stars we talk about, they would not be here thriving as they are without Ichiro Suzuki.
That's big picture. You saw big picture last night. It was just, it was one guy. Joel, it was one guy. It was 5 guys. It was 10. It was one guy. Your thoughts?
I just want to use imprimatur in a sentence.
Yes.
That's all. Look, I don't think Fidel Castro ever got 99.7% of the vote. I mean, we need to settle down. I mean, it's overwhelming to get this many people to agree to something. And I always see, this is literally the most transparent vote of something significant of anything. We have no idea who votes for the Oscars, what the percentages are for what it is. Who votes for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? We don't know who votes for the NBA Hall of Fame. In the NFL Hall of Fame, they go into a room, they come out, they tell you who the Hall of Famers are, and everyone's sworn to secrecy. 75% of us give our votes away. We sit on the air and tell you why we do it, and it gets killed. It's bizarre. It's crazy.
It is. And yet, yeah, I feel totally justified and warranted for my reaction. Okay. Your reaction to that, Jay?
Well, you know, I was disappointed, but can I put in a good word for the brethren?
Yes.
Our voters, as Joel always says, we've reached a point. We're looking for reasons to vote for somebody, not leave them off our ballots. And here's the proof. The last 10 years, we've had 4 guys get 99% of the vote or more. Mariano, Jeter, Griffey, and then yesterday, Ichiro. You know how many players had gotten 99% in our election before the last 10 years, before that period? That's none. Yeah. So we now get it.
Shouldn't be a thing.
Great for us.
Just become a thing. You know what's become a thing too is ballot tracker. So now you're aware that Ichiro is at 100%. Also, if not for ballot tracker, I felt a little disappointed that Josh ended at the 3rd name, which I shouldn't be. But I was wondering, wait, where's Carlos Beltran? I thought he was going over, and I thought it was. And also, Andrew Jones stalled a little bit. Like he went from 61% to 66%. Am I wrong? Do you expect 4 or possibly 5?
I thought there was a chance of 4 because I'm in such close touch with the guys at the Hall of Fame tracker, Ryan Thibodeau's Hall of Fame tracker. And I disagree that it's a bad thing. There are certain elements that are missing now, but here's the best part. For those of us who really love the Hall of Fame, it gives us a reason to talk about it and follow it for 2 months because the Hall of Fame tracker is keeping track. It's tremendous.
I didn't say it was a bad thing, but it is a thing, and it does change your perspective on it, where you kind of know. I think you were saying earlier, Joel, like if we didn't have the ballot tracking and was put together that way, like in the old days, we'd be wondering, CC Sabathia, how's he going to do? We had a very good indication of how he was going to do.
And the same for Billy Wagner. By the end, I see it both ways. It certainly brings a lot of interest for 6 to 8 weeks leading up to this. You know, like I release my ballot the morning of because I'd rather we not know. You know, like that there'd be some mystery about who gets in and how much. And I know there's still some mystery. Will Suzuki get 100%? Is Carlos Beltran getting in or not? But I wish the whole thing, I wish all elections were like this, but that's a different show.
Right.
なかなか公式番組で若者なんてワードは普通聞けませんよね。ちょっと過激だとは思いますが、それだけイチロー選手が現地で愛され、認められ功績を築き上げてきた結果ということですね。イチロー選手自身も会見で、満票じゃなくてよかったとおっしゃっていた内容が本当に感動的な内容でした。足りないから前に進もうと思える、なかなか言える言葉ではありません。会見でも言葉の大切さをイチロー選手は語っていました。改めて私たちも言葉の重みを考えて前に進んでいきましょう。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。